You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
Hello, my name is Stephen Daniels, and I'm the host of Clock Blockers, the #1 Miami fan show, and that's another Miami Dolphins First Down podcast, right here on Dolphins Talk. Before you watch this video or listen to it on audio, do me a huge favor. If you're watching this right now, hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime Dolphins Talk goes live. If you're listening to this wherever it is you get podcasts, make sure you subscribe to Dolphins Talk. We want you to get the best content about your favorite football team, the Miami Dolphins. Now, enjoy this exclusive content right here on Dolphins Talk. All right, without further ado, the following guest is somebody who I'm super excited to come onto this program, who I've been looking forward to for a very long time of having the opportunity to speak with him about our favorite football team, the Miami Dolphins. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Zach Krantz. What up?
Gentlemen, it's absolutely my pleasure to join you guys today. To be honest with you, I don't have a golf tournament to go to, so you're safe. And the only difference is I can't protect your blind side like your guest later tonight. That's the difference. Richmond Webb.
And Richmond can definitely do that.
Right. I can't do that, but I certainly will try at that point. And thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, guys. Listen, I don't wear the old Cam Wake ripped up Dolphins jersey for nothing. So I'm excited to be here today and, of course, with you guys today.
Zach, you have been part of the, content, I don't want to say content creator, but the media of South Florida for a very long time. Before we get into the Dolphins, just, you're doing stuff online now with WQAM and doing stuff with Zach Krantz Korner, which, by the way, is great. Love what you're doing. But you've seen the media change over the last 5 to 10 years, and especially a lot in the last couple of years with YouTube. And just tell me what your thoughts and views are of, just the kind of the turnaround of how we view sports and taking sports content. I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, everything has changed. I mean, we go back to me interning at WQAM in 2002. And this is when the internet still wasn't like the internet yet. Forget about somebody video podcasting. What the hell does that mean back there in 2002? No one knew what a blog was in 2002. So everything has changed. But like you said, I think in the last decade, or even a little bit less than that, we're talking about, everyone gets their information from somewhere, and it doesn't necessarily need to be from the guys on the radio every day, the guys on TV every day. The majority of it, sure, comes from that. You got to be at practice and you got to know insider stuff to get some of that stuff, sure. But it's one thing I even did on Krantz's Corner when I started Krantz. I started Krantz's Corner during the pandemic because I was bored. I was doing the radio show out of my house with Joe Rose for 14 months in a closet that literally just has pillows in it. I was stuck on a fold-up chair and a laptop and a microphone for 14 months in a closet during the pandemic. So I wanted to start Krantz's Corner to have conversations with people, and it ended up being a little bit more than that. Of course, everybody likes breaking news and doing stuff like that, but the way I look at it is somebody will watch even Krantz's Corner, even Clock Blockers, whatever it is, for more of a conversation than it is for necessarily breaking news and having all the information. You want to have your information correct. There's no doubt about it. You want to come on and spit, crazy stuff out here. Oh, Tua's being traded tomorrow. That's not what I'm here to do. But the whole point is, I found it interesting that conversations last longer than trying to bring someone on for a specific reason. And I do that also. If the Heat win a game, I bring on someone to talk about the Heat. If the Dolphins, I do a Dolphins roundtable with the guy, DolphinsTalk.com, with Mike from there, Jason Sarney, Douglas Durong, all these guys. I feel like that gets more attention than if I did bring on the Omar Kellys of the world sometimes, and the Chris Perkins of the world, and the Josh Moses of the world. Sometimes it's just they want to see more conversation, and then they want to see necessarily you breaking down X's and O's of a game or something like that. So what I can say about what's changed in the last decade, everything. Nothing is the same. Radio's not the same. TV's not the same. The internet is where everybody goes. the World Wide Web. That changed everything. But yeah, it really
that whole internet thing.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Was overrated, Zach. They said that whole internet thing was overrated.
Right.
I've been a little wrong about it.
I got into a spat 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, with guys that were doing a Miami Heat kind of podcast because they were ripping a radio guy for trying to break news or whatnot. And I was like, God, I'm like, you know what? You podcaster guys, and then look at me now, 5 years later. I'm podcaster guy. I'm worked out of my office.
Can't beat them, join them. You can't beat them, join them.
And basically, but the crazy point is, I did, whether it was morning radio with Joe Rose or afternoon radio with Hawk and Crowder for about 21 years. Yeah. Whether I was executive producer or on air, it was 21 years of morning or afternoon drive. And when I got offered the gig to do more digital stuff, to do more stuff of my own, the way it was presented to me was, I'm giving you, this is my boss talking, I'm giving you a blank canvas and I'm giving you all the paint you want. Paint me a different picture every single day. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I look at Krantz's Corner. One day I'm talking to you guys. Another day I've got, someone talking about the Marlins or, it doesn't matter what it is. And it's not necessarily sports. One of my favorite interviews I've done on Krantz's Corner with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Like, we were talking about space and Star Wars and planets. And for 58 minutes, I was like this listening.
Real quick, side note. It's so funny you talk about planets. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she was learning her planets. And Pluto's not a planet anymore. And I had a whole conversation with my 8-year-old daughter about my very eager mother just served us 9 pizzas, which is what I learned to remember the planets in order. And she's like, Dad, pizza is not a planet anymore. Pluto's not a planet. And I'm like, baby, look, when I went to school, it was a planet. So it's always going to be a planet to me. Always. Forget what these textbooks are telling you, okay? Right. They don't know nothing anyway. All right, let's get into, conversations about, the Miami Dolphins. Look, you've been covering this team for a very long time. Is there a more polarizing or controversial figure than Tua Tagovailoa and what he's been to this fan base over the last 4 years? No. What are your thoughts and views of Tua as a Miami Dolphin?
I almost didn't let you finish because the answer to that without you finishing is no. I've been covering this team since probably the Wannstedt days, a little bit before the Wannstedt days. I used to walk in the locker room and talk to Jay Fiedler. I used to walk in the locker room and talk to JT and Zach, Junior Seau, all those guys. Now JT and Zach, guys like that, all pros, Hall of Famers. Obviously, they walk to the locker room. You wait for guys like that. Pat and Sam, you waited for guys like that. And over the years, there have been guys, Ricky Williams, guys like that. That's fine. No one has been more polarizing than Tua. There's not even close. Mm-hmm. More than likely because he plays the position that Dan Marino played, and we haven't been able to find someone like that since then. Probably not going to be able to find someone like Dan Marino for a while either. But he was the 5th pick. He was the guy that we thought would be the change of everything. Listen, I like Tua. I don't think Tua is a franchise superstar, number 3 in the league, elite quarterback. I get that. But I'll tell you what he does. When everything is working, he gets the job done. That doesn't necessarily equate to wins because we haven't won a playoff game since
we were talking about that this morning about what equals, something in the win column,
And I'll tell you, and I like whenever I talk to Trey Wingo, he always says wins and losses are only a quarterback type of thing because no one else cares. No one talks about Lawrence Taylor's, win-loss record or someone like that. But if a quarterback wins or loses, it's always like that. So yeah, you're going to get that, but you get that from playing that position. He went to Alabama. It's not like this guy went to Central Connecticut Tech and played some games and no one really knows. And shout out to Central Connecticut Tech. That's
about to say, hold up, who's the quarterback for Central Connecticut Tech? Right. That's slided by that one.
Right. Like shout out to you if that's a real school or a real college. If not, then I was just playing around. But yeah, I look at Tua and he plays quarterback and he's the quarterback. We went through it for 7 years with Ryan Tannehill. Will he ever be the guy? Will he ever just be the guy? Let's give him another year. Then Gase came in here, and Gase got a lot out of Ryan Tannehill before he got hurt. I don't think Ryan Tannehill would have taken this team to a Super Bowl, and I don't think Adam Gase would have won a Super Bowl here. But it's like this.
Tannehill went to an AFC championship game after us, which is a hell of a lot further than we've been in the last 30 years.
Correct. So you look at just the position that Tua plays, And the way that he has come out in the last 2 years with Mike McDaniel at the beginning of the season and been in the MVP conversation, yeah, he's polarizing. And because of the fact that he was the franchise hopeful quarterback at the number 5 position drafted while we were doing the quote unquote rebuild, yeah, that's just what you're going to get from him there. And you're going to get everyone in the world talking about it. So it kind of stinks that that's on Tua, but guess what? You play the position, you got drafted high, you get played.
You play to
get
win
paid well,
the game,
right? You got to deal. Right.
Manny, you want to go ahead and ask a question?
Zach, when you look at this team overall, would you say we're built to win right now? Or is it we're one quarterback away like the New York Jets thought they were? Are we one real defensive coordinator away like we thought we had with Vic Fangio? When you look at this team as an overall product, what do you think is the realistic vision and goals for this team coming into next year?
Well, I mean, I would assume if they could bring back who they need to bring back, which is not going to be easy contract-wise, are they a coach away? Are they a player away? I think that this year, honestly, if you told me that I could just change 2 or 3 things for this season, and I'm not saying make Tua 6'5" right-handed and Randy Moss, I get that. I'm talking realistically. If
I love your answers.
If Van Ginkel, if you could give me 2 of the 3 pass rushers, Van Ginkel, Chubb or Phillips, and give me 2 of them healthy at the end of the season. Jerome Baker was a casualty, came back and obviously got hurt again. That's fine. And Xavier Howard was falling off. But if you could give me 2 of those pass rushers back, I think we win that first playoff game. I think you beat KC. So I don't know if you're 1 or 2 guys away from winning a Super Bowl, but I do think that this team is kind of built to win now. It needs direction on defense. Obviously, Vic Fangio is here and changed a lot of things up when it came to this defense. And it took a little while to kind of implement it and feel good about the defense. But once it did, you were like, "Ooh, maybe this is what we needed." Maybe, and then injuries started to happen, and you saw the whole thing collapse towards the end of the season. I think at this point, the offense needs a third guy they could worry about at the wide receiver position. A-Chan, A-Train, whatever people want to call him, that's fine. This kid's going to be a stud. I don't know if he's going to run the ball 22 times a game. I think that's over with at this point throughout the NFL, outside of maybe having a Derrick Henry type player there. I just think that Mike McDaniel needs to get this offense back on track, be a little bit kind of crazier with his offensive calls, because sometimes he goes away from what he's good with. He's good to run the ball. This team knows how to run the ball. When they run north and south, this team's hard to beat. When they try to be fancy and run east to west, the run game doesn't work as well. We saw what happened with Tyreek. When Tyreek is not in the game, the offense changes totally. When Waddle's not in the game, the offense changes totally. I just think at this point, you're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be 100% healthy. You're never going to have 100% of your players out there. You got to figure out something that's a little bit less than what we want, than the 70-point, output versus Denver. And on defense, find the system that works for your players, where at the end of the season, we're not making videos about kicking rocks, getting a defensive coordinator out of here, and finding someone that they could deal with. I don't know if it's internally, externally, I don't know. But as a Dolphin fan, outside of my media cap throwing it off, it's damn frustrating to see what happens, especially these last 2 years when you thought you really had a chance. We were 9-3, and I'm talking about hosting a playoff game here in Miami. I can't wait. And I'm looking at prices in Vegas for hotels and stuff, because I'm like, wow, what if they do make a run here after 9-3?
Black Friday, Krantz, I bought airline tickets.
I believe it. I talked to a lot of guys that do Radio Row up there for other radio stations around the country, and they were kind of making jokes at me because I hadn't made my reservations yet. And he goes, dude, the Excalibur and the Luxor are right next to the Mandalay Bay. The Mandalay Bay is the media center for all the Super Bowl stuff. He goes, $19 a night plus resort fee. You could get a room there for 5 days. Literally, it would cost less than $100. And I didn't pull the trigger because I didn't want to pull the trigger and then be the jinx guy. But guess what? I almost wish I did.
I pulled the trigger, Zach, and it didn't work out well for me. Right, it didn't work out well for me.
So basically, the long-winded answer to your question is they're built to win. The difference is, can they keep the pieces together before all of a sudden, well, we let Wilkins walk, or we let this guy walk, or we had to cut Xavier Howard, because those guys aren't necessarily the easiest people to replace. And if you put a rookie or a guy that's never been in the system before there, it's going to take time for them to be there and kind of get in that spot. So I don't know what the right answer is outside of 5 years ago or 6 years ago now going into it. Stephen Ross sat in a press conference and said, we're building a team to compete for the Super Bowl every year. And the only thing I've gotten since then is a 75% answer on a quarterback that you drafted 5th overall and 2 wild card losses. So it's not working.
And an increase exponentially of season tickets. You know,
just one more follow up for you, because you know the comment section's being very polite right now. We'll go with polite. If you had to give Tua the bag this year, would you do it? And that's going to say a lot about how you feel towards Tua, depending on your answer.
I wouldn't. Right now, I can't give him the Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow type of contract. If he wants to sign that big deal and he's forcing my hand, I'm showing him Daniel Jones's contract and making it a little bit bigger than that. And because that's kind of where the quarterback kind of market is.
I let him play on the 23 mil, Zach. I let him play on the 23 mil.
That option is obviously there as well. The only thing I'm reading when I kind of see that, because I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to the salary cap. I don't believe in the salary cap because I know it'll always be manipulated. The only thing I'm reading is if you do that, then it's that guaranteed 24 or 23 and change against the cap. If you extend him, you could give him a bonus, do this and that, and it counts as like 10 or 12.
He's never going to sign a piece of paper that isn't making him one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. I get it. Okay, he shouldn't. And the Dolphins' best bet is I can let this guy play for the next 3 years without him touching a piece of paper. And that's what the Dolphins should do. They should let him play under the 23 mil. And then if it works out, he wins a playoff game, you sit at the negotiating table for the next year or two and you say, all right, what are we doing here? Are we signing on the dotted line? Because if you're not, we're franchise tagging you, and you can play as a top 3 pay this year. And we can go back and do it all over again next year.
It's not a bad option. If that's the option, if at the end of the day that happens and we find out word from Barry Jackson or whoever breaks the news at that point, that at that point I will be okay and happy with it. I don't think Tua is a bad quarterback. No matter what you're hearing out of my mouth, it's not, hey, I need to move on from Tua.
Right.
If I just I can't pay him right now like Joe Burrow. And it sucks because Justin Herbert's done absolutely nothing in this league so far except for put up stats, and he's getting
look at Herbert and Daniel Jones's contract. Unbelievable what those two guys got.
Right, and they have done nothing. And they've done nothing. Justin Herbert's just a 6'5" dude that plays for the Chargers that puts up good numbers. Joe Burrow on one leg took his team to a Super Bowl with a crappy offensive line. Joe Burrow's the kind of guy, although now he's a little injury prone, which scares me a little bit.
He's missed more games than Tua. He has missed more games than Tua.
Yet that's not the narrative, right? That'll never be the narrative because Burrow won playoff games, took his team to a Super Bowl. If Tua takes his team to a Super Bowl and loses in the Super Bowl next year, let's say that happens, he is golden here for forever. Like he will always be the guy because he got to that game. He's not going to be Marino.
If he makes it to a Super Bowl, Krantz, make him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I don't care.
It doesn't matter. But right now, I'm just hesitant. And that doesn't mean I don't believe in Tua. That's not where I'm getting. I'm looking at financials. And when you're asked a question like that, the financials have to be a big part of it. And I don't know. He needs a lot on this team to make it work. So if he takes up 30% of the cap, you better hope that the Achans of the world and a rookie wide receiver and tight end next year come in, play on a rookie deal, because that's the only way you can kind of offset a guy that's making $50 million. Wait till you see what the Chargers roster looks like for Jim Harbaugh next year when they get started. Right. They're not going to have Keenan Allen. They're not going to have some guys on that team because they can't pay everybody.
100%. Clock Blockers live here on Dolphins Talk. Bearded Phinatic, my co-host for the day. Myself, Stephen Daniels. We got special guests from Krantz's Corner, Zach Krantz in the building. Let's talk about Mike McDaniel because he has been scrutinized, rightfully so, after this season for a lot of the decisions he's made, abandoning the run, his game plan, this pre-snap motion. What are your thoughts about Mike McDaniel after his first 2 years as head coach in the NFL? And side note, what do we do with the defensive coordinator position? Because Boyer wasn't the answer. Fangio wasn't the answer. Who is the answer? Start with McDaniel and you work your way to the defensive coordinator position.
Okay. I like Mike McDaniel, and I think he needs to learn from his own mistakes a little bit more than he did after year one. Now, after 2 years, you have to kind of look back at everything you did. In year one, I think at the end of the season, we ripped him a little bit for abandoning the run at the end of the season. and he kind of tried to do other things. I think what he tried to do this year was make it a little too cute at times with the fact that, and maybe it was a Tua thing more than Mike McDaniel, where Tyreek at times would get like 17 targets in a game. He wouldn't look anywhere else. And that was his kind of
going after 2K. He's going after 2,000.
Right. And so if that was kind of cute moves, get rid of the cute moves, because the cute moves never work. It doesn't matter at that point. You have Tyreek Hill. He's the number one weapon in the NFL when he's 100% healthy. He just is. He's the number one weapon. He might not be the best wide receiver. Maybe someone says this guy's a better wide receiver than him. He's the number one weapon. So use him for what it is. And Mike McDaniel's done a pretty good job when he kind of slides down in motion and does his little thing. That's fine. But I think Mike McDaniel needs to kind of take a deep breath, look at the last 2 years, and figure out the mistakes he's made on offense, because he doesn't really run the defense. He has someone else run the defense, which is fine to me also. If you're an offensive guy, get the best person you can or you think to run that defense. So if Mike McDaniel can do that, that's fine. I think he just needs to kind of look and the cute word just keeps coming back to me, because I think he is. The biggest question for me in the beginning was, can he be a leader of men, of 53 guys in that locker room? He's never done it before. And I think he's done that. I think the guys in the locker room actually love to play.
They respect the hell out of him.
Right. And I think that's the number one thing you need to do as a head coach. If you don't have respect of the players, you're done. Cam Cameron before the fourth preseason game was done. Forget about the regular season. He was done.
Phil Binns too.
Done. These guys were done before the season even started or 3 games into the season. Mike McDaniel has a respect, so check that box off. Can he call plays? Yes, he's done a pretty good job at that. Not 100%, because there's times where, like I said, I'd like to see more.
Back-to-back years, top 10 offense, Zach.
Right, and it's worked. It has worked. So that we have in our back pocket.
40 points in the final 12 quarters of the season ain't going to cut it either.
No, and that's where the last 2 years have been, the last couple of games of the season, just garbage time games and games you needed to win. That Tennessee game this year still killing me, because who knows what would happen. The Buffalo game, sure, of course. You were in games. Even the KC game in Germany, the first half stunk, but you were in the game at the end of the game. And you could have probably won that game, except for a couple different plays. So I think Mike McDaniel just needs to kind of sit himself in a room, look over games, find his own mistakes, and try to fix them. Not going to be easy, but it's something I think McDaniel could do. Defensive coordinator-wise, the Brandon Staley's of the world, the Campanellis of the world, I don't know what the right answer is going to be here, because you have to find a guy, which kind of is weird to say, that's just like Mike McDaniel, and that's not easy. Vic Fangio is the opposite of Mike McDaniel.
Well, that's why we all wanted him in the first place, though, Krantz, was that
right.
What McDaniel wasn't.
And you know what? It didn't work. It didn't work because those players in the locker room at the end of the year gave up on this guy, I think. I don't think they gave up and didn't play their hardest. They gave up on their coach. The day he was gone, or the rumors were gone, how many players came out and spit emojis out on social media or did this?
Hair grease, don't let the Lord hit you where the Lord split you, man. I mean, 100%.
It's one thing to your coach to leave or go to a different team and you say a couple of good things about it. Jalen Ramsey was talking about 3 different other coaches, how great they were, with Vic Fangio kind of still sitting in the wind as their DC or going somewhere else. So it's not easy to find that guy.
What about Leslie Frazier, though? Like, Leslie Frazier fits kind of the Fangio mode, but the players loved Frazier, though, too, from Buffalo.
You need a guy like that.
I think Frazier's the best fit for them, honestly, Zach.
But if you don't find a guy, you got to think about what the offensive players are doing in the offensive meeting with Mike McDaniel and the way they talk with Mike McDaniel. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball.
That was part of the problem. They weren't having conversations. He was saying, this is what it is. This is how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, you're not going to play. Go look at Nick Needham. 4 snaps, 3 snaps, 2 snaps. Cam Smith wasn't even dressing on Sundays. And he was hands down better. You can't tell me he wasn't better than Eli Apple. Eli Apple had no business being on a football field last season.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And that's why it's hard to find a guy. You need to find a defensive coordinator that's like a clone of Mike McDaniel, but on defense, something like that.
Brandon Staley? Is that Ryan Slowick? Is that Babbage?
It's got to be one of these younger dudes that doesn't come in here, and you have to kind of now that you implemented that with your head coach and kind of the offensive scheme, you got to try it on the defense and see if it works.
What you get with young head coaches, you get young mistakes. Yes. One of the things that we're having problems with McDaniel is is he learning from his own mistakes? Is he making some of the, and when you get young head coaches or you get young coordinators, this is what comes with the territory. We all watched the movie Draft Day, and what's his face, the head coach, who plays the head coach in there? I can't think of his name for the life of me.
Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary goes, you know what the problem is with a rookie head coach or a rookie quarterback? You get rookie mistakes. You have to teach him all these things. He's like, you know what I'm talking about? And she's like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. You know what I know what you're talking about. And that's the same thing that you get, Zach, with young head coaches and young coordinators. And one of the problems that I have found, and I'd like to get your take on this, is part of the reason that young head coaches don't necessarily always succeed in the NFL is because they're coming from programs that are young and have a lot of good young talent. And what makes a good head coach is the coaching staff that he can bring to a team. When you have tenured head coaches, they're always bringing in these big names, but that's because they have 20 years of coaching in different staffs, and they can bring people from 20 different years of coaching. When you have a guy like Mike McDaniel, who the hell is he bringing from San Francisco? When you have a guy like Brandon Staley, who the hell is he bringing from LA? Especially after the debacle that it was, or Slowick, or any of these young guys. They can't really bring a coaching staff with them. And that's part of the problem.
No, I get it. And it's a good point you make. I can't, it's hard to argue against what you said. The only thing I will say is you did it with Mike McDaniel, and it's working on offense to a point, not Super Bowl quality, not playoff win quality, but to a point it's getting there. I think you got to try it on defense. And if it doesn't work, listen, if this thing doesn't work in 2 years, if they don't win a playoff game in 2 years, Mike McDaniel's not going to be here. He's not. And it's not, and it's probably nothing personally against Mike McDaniel. It's just the way of the NFL.
The NFL's what have you done for me lately, league?
So you got to figure out what might work for the next 2 years. And if that is bringing in one of those young guys and having some young mistakes, have some veteran guys on defense to try to help. I don't know. I don't think there's a right answer at this point because the old guy stuff's not working. The young guy stuff, you're going to have mistakes.
We're cursed, Zach. Just say it. We're cursed. We're on Indian burial grounds, and we're cursed. That's all it is, Zach. That's all it is.
I'm going to be 45 years old in a couple months, and my best Dolphin memories are when I was a teenager.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there.
You know what I mean? Like anyone that's 30 or younger right now.
35. I'm 35.
You don't know what.
You don't know shit, Steven.
No, it's not even you don't know shit. It's the fact that
my first. Hey, you ready for this, Krantz?
Yes.
My first recollection. Okay, my first memory. Like I have small memories of watching Dan Marino on the couch with my dad. But the first game that I can ever remember, 62-7. It's the first game I can ever remember.
Look at your first memory is. Some of my first memories were in the Orange Bowl, watching Dan Marino throw for 400 yards and sitting on the fence in the Orange Bowl because my dad had season tickets in row XXX, whatever it was. I was on the fence, leaning on the fence that could have broken at any point, and I was leaning, and that's how I watched Canes games on Saturdays and Dolphin games on Sundays growing up as a kid. And our biggest thing once I really started to get football was, man, I hope we have the AFC Championship game here in Miami this year and not in Buffalo or not in San Diego or something like that. That's what a Dolphin fan was when I was growing up. It wasn't, man, we haven't been to the playoffs in 4 years. We haven't won the AFC East in 8 years. That's what it was. We need to kind of get back to that, although it's not easy.
Part of the problem with that, Krantz, is, and this will be the last that we talk about, is I love Dolphin Stadium. I love Hard Rock Stadium. It is absolutely an amazing environment. But, and there's a big but there, it is no Orange Bowl environment. There's no real home field advantage for us. We have the heat, but that's in September and October.
Right.
The atmosphere, because of the way this let's call a spade, Krantz. The seats behind the Dolphins bench should not be the most expensive seats in the house. Those should be die-hard fans, and the seats should be a little bit closer to the field, right? And I think you could get that atmosphere if they were willing to take out some of the high-priced, high-dollar seats that you have there. And I think that's part of the problem, and that goes into Stephen Ross.
Right.
Stephen Ross has made so many great and wonderful and stupid mistakes over his tenure as owner of the Miami Dolphins. I think this is his last year as owner. I've been pounding on the table. I think this is it. He doesn't have another rebuild in him. He just does not.
No, not a 5 or 6 year. I mean, I don't see that happening at all. Listen, it'll never be the OB again. It'll never be that stadium. The business in the NFL is too big to do what you want to do. You're probably right from a fan standpoint, but from Tom Garfinkel and the business standpoint, they'll never change it. It'll never happen. The most you could ask for now in a business standpoint is if Tom Garfinkel could get enough people on his ass to change that jersey back to the throwback. And for good.
On the table for that for years, Krantz.
We're finally at that window. I think I read yesterday. We're finally at that 5 or whatever year window.
10 years, and we're at it now.
We're there. So Garfinkel, do it for the fans. We know you're not changing the 72 club or any of that stuff. We get that.
No, for
but
sure.
Change it for the fans.
Uniforms, Tom.
Right. Do it for that. I don't think Stephen Ross is here for another rebuild. He wants to win right now, but I don't think it's going to happen before, like you said. He probably gives up tenureship as the owner and sells his team for an amazing profit from what he bought it from Wayne Huizinga.
We were Big Mike from Dolphins Talk and we were talking about this yesterday on the show. He thinks it'll be 1 year of his daughter as owner.
Maybe
that will be the process of the sale of doing the sale process, and it'll have to do with tax implications and all that BS.
Sure. But listen, these guys are smart business guys, not like me. I don't know the smart stuff. I would sell the team, go to the money, buy an island, and I'd be fine by myself. And then I'd owe about $80 million in taxes every year.
But never show up. You don't have to worry about it. No Wesley Snipes for you. You're good. Okay?
I'm good. I'll be out of there. I'm going to tell you guys this. I like doing this. I want to do this more often with you guys because I like doing this. I like the kind of vent session it is right now. I just looked at my text with my wife saying, get on this call right now. So I'm going to rain check, leave you now, rain check, but with the promise that I want to come on and talk more. And if that means coming on more than once for a week or whatever it is, you got me. I'm locked in.
Love it.
And that's it, because I think this is a good vent session, not just for me, not just for you guys, but for the comments and all that also. So that's it. So there you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach Krantz, Krantz's Corner. Go check him out on YouTube.
Love you, man.
Thank you, brother. You're the man.
I appreciate it, and I'll see you soon. I promise.
Sounds good. I appreciate it.